Hey, Jameson here, and in this video I want to compare different pricing models for your apps. So like if you're making an app, should you charge upfront, maybe like a couple bucks for a download, or should you wait until later to monetize? If you even want to monetize at all, maybe you could charge subscription based, like every month you charge them a couple bucks or something like that. So in this video I want to talk about like when you should use each of them because it's important to have the right structure, otherwise you're going to kind of run into problems down the road. And in fact, a lot of apps have run into those problems and then realized, oh crap, we need to go back and change this. And then there's issues when you're changing over between the different models. So it literally pays to think of this upfront. Okay, so the first situation I want to look at is when your app basically has like the same amount of value over time. So here I've got a graph where this direction is time moving forward, and then this is like the amount of value that your app gives. And so in situation number one, we have kind of like a straight line. There's a constant amount of value being provided to the user. So if they download your app, they have the same value on day one as they did on day like 100. And before I tell you which pricing model I would use for the blue line, I'm going to show you another line so that you can compare it. So in the case where the value of what you're building goes down over time, it could be like a sharp drop off, or it could be kind of linear like that. No matter what it is, if it goes down over time, like pretty dramatically, like down to zero, that's kind of this second class of line which I'm indicating. And then there's actually one other line I want to show you, which is the case where your value goes from zero to like exponential. So let's look at each of these three examples. They're very interesting. An example of this might be if you are providing a service which scales massively, like maybe you allow users themselves to build something which influences a lot of people, like social media would be an example of this. Or another one I can think of is like a payment processor where you have potential to do massive impact. So let's start off with the blue line. Thinking about this, the users are getting the same amount of value over time recurringly. So time after time when they come again, they have the same amount of value. And that doesn't mean that there's the same content there. That means that they like the platform as much as they did on day one because maybe it has new stuff which they like. So an example of this might be Netflix or something like that. So it's not like users are watching all the TV shows and then there's nothing to watch and it goes. What's happening with Netflix is they constantly are releasing new shows, and so the value of having Netflix essentially stays the same over time for most users. You might have some users which watch every single show and they just literally sit on the couch all day, but that's an exception, not the rule. Anyways, so for the blue line, what I would recommend in terms of a pricing model would be the subscription. Okay? And that makes perfect sense because users have a reason to keep paying because the value is renewed, every month or whatever interval that is, whatever makes sense. Monthly is pretty common, and then you can have an option to pay like the entire year and maybe get a little bit of a discount. So that way you reduce your churn or the number of users that drop off because like if someone's paying for Netflix month over month, then sometimes when the bill hits, they're going to be in less of a good mood and they think, maybe I'll just kill the Netflix bill. But when they're ready to purchase, if you give them the option to do like pay for the entire year at once and get a discount, then, they make that decision once and then you're good for the whole year. You've already collected the payment. And also another model that makes sense with the blue line is ads. So you'll notice a lot of video streaming services allow you to watch free with ads, like YouTube is one of those. And that's because you've got the users there. They're coming back because there's recurring value. Where ads would not make sense is something like the red line, where like the users have kind of a burst of excitement at the beginning, and then the value really wanes over time. And so if you're running ads on that platform, there's going to be no one to watch the ads. And plus ads are kind of slow earning things anyways, like you need to have a lot of volume in order to make money with ads. And now let's take a look at the red line, which is when the value of the app drops off over time. And the main ones I can think as an example of this would be like games that are single player, where the user is basically just consuming content that is baked into the application. There's no like multiplayer functionality. There's no real recurring value. It's just, you play once and then you're done, sort of thing. A lot of games are like that. And so in this case, what I recommend is actually just upfront. And I say that because they have the most excitement at the start. So I probably could have drawn this like sharper, because with a lot of upfront payment things, there's a lot of value received at the beginning. In fact, even more value potentially than some of the subscriptions, but I guess it really depends on the apps. The real key point here with these curves is the shape. Like this one's going down, this one's curved and up, and then that one's straight. So with the red lines, there's a lot of excitement up front, and then it wanes over time. So it doesn't make any sense to do something like subscription or ads, because they're not going to be around or even care to use your app that much in the future. So yeah, that is the red line. All your value is basically upfront, so you should charge upfront. Okay, now finally, let's move on to the purple line. And this purple line is very interesting, because if you can figure out how to get users to get to that point in time where they're making that much value, you can really capitalize on that. A great way to do this would be like a percentage cut. Let's say if you're making like a payment processor app or something like that. Like your users at the start, they probably are just figuring things out and that sort of thing. But once you get clients that start making a lot of revenue, then it'd be great if you could take a cut of that, and that will kind of help you pay for like the usage of everyone else who's just trying to figure this thing out. So for the purple line, I kind of recommend like a percentage cut. And the reason for that is twofold, actually. Number one, so that you can get people in the door, and then number two, so that you can capitalize on the people that make it big. And another thing that follows this pattern, that's outside of like the payment processor realm, is like social media. So your users over time, they'll like start growing followings, and with that one, it's probably better to use ads. And in fact, that's what we've seen with a lot of social media platforms. They monetize with ads. And the reason that ads work so well with social media is because the users aren't really like gaining money on the platform, so you can't really take a percentage cut. So really, you're just kind of left with the last option, which is just ads, which is fine because, it gets new people in the door. And then, if you have a huge social media following over time, then you probably don't care if there's ads on there, because you're happy. You're just using this platform for free. So no matter what situation you're in, like ads make sense for a social media platform, because everyone's kind of happy. I don't think anyone would really pay to use a social media platform, because they're not extracting a huge amount of value. They're just kind of basically wasting time, in my opinion, in a lot of cases. Like you're just scrolling through your Facebook feed. Probably not your most productive day. Anyways, that's it really for this video. I just wanted to show you some different ideas I had on like pricing models. It's kind of a little bit more complex, but hopefully this made it a little bit more focused, where like if you have a lot of value at the start, then you should charge upfront. And then if you have continuous value over time, you should make either a subscription model, or you can do ads for your users who don't want to pay a subscription. And then if you have exponential value, then it'd be great if you could find some way to get a percentage of the value that you're giving your users so much of at the end. So that's it for this video, just my thoughts on that. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I always love reading those from you guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.